Well, hello there trainers, greetings, KuroBlitz here and welcome back to another video. Today I decided to do a lot of journeying and a lot of traveling to the Pokemon anime world, and apparently there have been some places, some cities and some landmarks that the show during the Ash era has never really tackled apparently. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. I want to do a deep dive in terms of the geography of the Pokemon world and tell you, the viewer, the places where Ash Ketchum and everyone else never really visited per se. I just want to leave a disclaimer first and foremost, being the post-game locations of several Pokemon games. Places like the Sevi Islands, the Battle Zone, Black City, White Forest and the Isle of Armor were sadly never tackled, so I just want to leave the disclaimer here and there, just for if you ask why didn't you tackle these cities before, it's because they are very big much land masses and I decided to put them here and there. But yeah, I decided to do this video because of the final episode of Pokemon Sun and Moon, where Ash says that he wants to see the rest of the world, and that's what prompts, the idea of touring all of the globe in Pokemon journeys. But we never really had the opportunity to see all of the rest of the world because the show was only 3 years instead of 6, like how the original series was. And I decided to, do this encyclopedia, glossary, whatever, of the places where Ash Ketchum never visited. So without further ado trainers, let's get started with the video. Let's go! Alright then, so first and foremost, let's start where all of the journeys begin, that being of the Kanto region. And the primary places where our heroes had never ventured to was the Pokemon Mansion in Cinnabar Island, as well as the Sylph Corporation in Saffron City. During Saffron City, the explanation it's very simple. We only went to the dojo in the Battle Frontier arc, as well as Pokemon Journeys, and in the original series they were more prioritized with the Sabrina development. And as for the Pokemon Mansion for Cinnabar, we do see the lab that Team Rocket wants to, do a heist, but Ash, Blaine and the others prevent that. And the creation of Mewtwo was more leaning towards, a laboratory in New Island for the actual movie with Team Rocket and Giovanni, but we never really see the mansion even without, the underground bunker laboratory, which is a real shame. I think it would be a great thing for, Go to visit because of Mew and everything like that. It could have even been the laboratory of Fuji before Giovanni sponsored New Island. I think it would be a cool subplot to tackle in the newest anime. Now when it comes to, honorary mansions for the Kanto region, we never really visited Victory Road or the underpath of the Roots, but we do see something very similar towards it. We don't see the Victory Road before the Indigo League, but we do have the March for the Pokemon League because it was very inspired by the Olympics, and we have the Torch of Moltres, and Moltres was in Victory Road, so there is your connection here and there. And we might have not seen the underpass, however we do see, the tunnels in Greengy City with, the Grimer family and the Magnemite family that leads to, the power plant. That was not really the power plant, but it was a loose adaptation of it, so there is a connection here and there. As for other honorary mentions in the Kanto region, we never went to the Celadon Casino for the Rocket Pokemon, and we never really visited Tojo Falls. We do know that Annabelle's Battle Tower is nearby there, but we never really went there. However, we do meet Suicune in the first episode of Johto, before Ash, Misty and Brock go to New Bark Town, so you could loosely connect Suicune's appearance in Tojo Falls, because even in the manga, that's where Suicune shows up to help Misty in the Pokemon League. And we never went to the casino, but we had, Neon City in the middle of that desert where Jigglypuff does that show for everyone. So I feel like that could have been, a loose connection there. So that's basically everything for the Kanto region. Now as for Johto, it's very unique realistically, because we were 158 episodes in Johto and we still never saw some places because they were more prioritized in showing the Pokemon than the actual locations, because the locations are similar in nature. Those locations being the Dark Cave, the Union Cave, Mount Mortar, and Embedded Tower. As for Embedded Tower, I feel like it could have been very interesting if Pokemon Horizons does this because of the Draconid lore and the clans that left, you know, Zinnia's hometown in Hoenn, and it's a nice bridge between, you know, Cyanwood's Cliff Hedge and the Safari Zone of Johto. But this could have also been a cool landmark to have visited in Pokemon Journeys, because Go's friend and rival Horus is from Cyanwood, and Go wanting to capture Pokemon, doing a Safari Zone challenge, it would have been absolutely great. Now, as for the other 3 landmarks, they are all caves, they would have all realistically been the same. We never visited Mount Mortar, but we have the Tyrogue episode with Kyo, I guess that suffices. We never had a Dark Cave episode, but we have villages that worship Dunsparce and Wobbuffet. They have festivals for those Pokemon, so I feel like those are more unique as a replacement than just, you know, doing cave episodes for the gang to split up. Forest Grumps with the Ursaring was actually some good stuff there. And as for Union Cave, the only thing interesting there, realistically, it's the Lapras on Fridays, and I feel like Ash reuniting with his before the Larvitar arc, I feel like that could have been an amazing substitute. It was an amazing substitute arc, and there was no really need to just do caves for Johto. It would have not made any sense. But yeah, leaving Johto, now let's tackle the Hoenn region. And for the Hoenn region, we do have, you know, a lot of interesting scenarios when it comes to places that we never visited, but they were kinda mentioned. For example, we never really visited the Mirage Tower in the Route 111 desert, or even the desert per se, but we had the Mirage Kingdom of Togepi in Advanced Generation as echoing that, you know, illusion and that, you know, all realm. And we see a glimpse of the desert in Pokemon Journeys episode 88, where Go gets Kingdra and the chasers are then battling Regirock. So in a way, Go kinda unlocked the Braille sealed chamber aspect. I think that's kinda funny, but yeah. As for other landmarks of the Hoenn region, we never visited Meteor Falls, Mount Pyre, the Cycling Road, and Sky Pillar, which is a real shame because these landmarks are amazing for Magma and Aqua subplots that could have led to an actual and more proper conclusion. Like Ash, May, Brock, and Max helping out in, you know, the rivalry between both gangs, and maybe Team Rocket could have been in the fray as well. I think it would have been a lot interesting. Like, we do have lore for Mount Pyre and the Meteor Falls. The Cycling Road would have been something cool to see. We do have, you know, episodes on that route. We even have, you know, the Mystery House, but we never really have this. But we do see new Mauville, so I do appreciate that in happenstance. But Sky Pillar would have been an amazing place to visit. It would have been, can you imagine May regaining her bike and she has to, you know, climb that stuff up? It would have been immaculate. Now, when it comes to places of the Hoenn region, there are some that kinda echo and parallel landmarks that we never really visited. For example, we do see the Holedale ruins. They do bear some semblance to the Seafloor Cavern and the Cave of Origin that they were trying to figure out in Dewford, but they never really saw that. We just had an Inkada secret base. But the Holedale ruins do have Relicanth, so that's part of the Regilore, and that's the first episode that we do meet Team Magma. While we never see Shoal Cave in the anime, we do have, you know, a tundra snow biome in Izabi Island, because that's where Ash caught his Snorunt. So there is a small connection there. And I do appreciate the fact that we had an Izabi Island arc instead of, just being on the ocean routes from, Moss Deep to Sootopolis and then, to Pacific Log. This was a great cushion to, soften the blow of just being on the high seas of Hoenn. And speaking of the high seas of Hoenn, we do have an episode that tackles Briny and Mr. Pico with an Aqua Grunt, but it wasn't in Rust Turf Tunnel, so we never really saw Rust Turf Tunnel, and we never saw the Trainer Hill, even though it was only an Emerald edition, and when Emerald was around, they were already in the east side of Hoenn, so it really doesn't make sense for it to happen. But since movie 7 had the Battle Tower in LaRousse City, and we do see Brandon in an open field in movie 6 being Jirachi Wishmaker, I like to believe that that place was meant to be Trainer Hill even before the battle facility's creation. And speaking of creation, let's go now to where the creation trio resides, that being of the Sinnoh region. Now, Sinnoh and Diamond and Pearl as a whole was the only series where they were only in one region, and that was for 191 episodes total. So you would expect that there would be, not much places that they didn't visit, right? And you would be correct. The main places where Ash, Dawn, and Brock didn't visit, it was the Ramanas Park, back then it was called the Ball Park, and it's a post-game location, so it makes sense that they didn't visit it, and it's more Safari Zone based to get old Pokemon, so the mechanic in the anime doesn't really work. However, we never went to Send-Off Spring and also to Turnback Cave, the place where you go to the world of Giratina. Granted, the anime never really tackled Giratina in that fashion, so it makes sense why this wasn't really something that kinda happened. But it would have been cool if Luker was to arrest Kairon in something around those lines like this. There are other places in the Sinnoh region that were really never visited, those being of the Wayward Cave and the Oreburg Gate. Granted, we do meet Mira and Ash and the others help her out with another mission that it's not really about caves, and in Wayward Cave you do get to capture Gible, so if you want to say that Cory caught his Gible on that place, you could say it, but they could also be in Oreburg Cave because they were in the Valley Windworks around that time, so they were circling around Sinnoh. It could be either or, it's up to your interpretation really. But yeah, we never went to Wayward Cave or even the Oreburg Gate. They just bypass it. There was no really need for it. Now leaving the Sinnoh region, let's tackle the landmass that is Unova. As for the Unova region, the two cities that we never really visited was the Village Bridge and Lantimus Town. We do go to Aspertia City and Flokesi City in the N arc, even if it's very brief and for half an episode, just as they just happen to cross there, but they do visit there, so they don't count. But the ones that do count are the Village Bridge and Lantimus Town, and I feel like these places would have been amazing for to see in the anime. You could argue that they use the village aspect and the old-timey aspect of these two locations and they combined with the Village of Dragons for the anime, because the games do state that it's in the region abroad and the manga canonizes that as Blackthorn City in the Johto region, so there are aspects to that. But point of the matter is, we never really visited Village Bridge or even Lantimus Town, and let me know in the comment section down below what you guys wanted for this to have happened, what kind of battles or interactions or rivals or even arcs you would have liked to see in these land masses. And speaking of other places in the Unova region, we never went to Lost Lorn Forest, even though it's to the east of Nimbasa, of Nimbasa City. But we had Luke with Zorua in Nimbasa town, so there's that. And even in the end of the Zoroark movie, we see the Beast Trio, they were called the Nimbasa Legends, so we never see Lost Lorn Forest, but we have, Pokemon from there represented. We also never went to Dragon Spiral Tower. It's mentioned, we see it in the horizon, we know that Ant's flashback with Ghetsis and Reshiram is in this place, but we never actually visited said place. So there you have it. Now when it comes to the Kalos region, the main two places that we never really visited or was addressed in any way, shape or form are the Azure Bay that leads to the Sea Spirit's Den, as well as Kilode City in South Kalos, because it was post-game, right? And XYZ was on a time crunch as is, and there was no really need for Ash to, go to the Battle Maison and battle the 4 Shadow Lanes. However, we do see Moltres and Zapdos, but we never get an Articuno episode, not even during the Snowbell arc. We do see Lugia in movie 18 because of Hoopa portals, but besides that we never really go to Azure Bay or even Sea Spirits Den. And Kilode City, there was no really point to it, like doing a detour there, it really would not add up to anything. So I understand why it was skipped. Now, there are other places that were skipped, those being of Glittering Cave, the place where you first meet Team Flare, and the Pokemon Village that goes beyond the Winding Woods, and we do see Wolfric there with some Pokemon watching the Flare Crisis, and even in the XYZ opening. Granted, the Pokemon Village aspect was kinda referenced with by Ash helping the wild Pokemon in the Winding Woods, so there is a connection there. And as for Glittering Cave in the outskirts of Umbred Town, that's where you find the fossils, so the whole episode where Ash, Alexa and the others are helping Auroras retrieve her Amora from Team Rocket, you could say that's your Glittering Cave episode. Granted, this is the first place where you meet Team Flare, and during around this time it was when the first Mega Evolution special episode aired, so Alan got the Gyarados in a cave. You could have a connection for the Glittering Cave there, because they are based on, the Paris Catacombs, loosely. They are loosely inspired by the Paris Catacombs. We might see a reinterpretation of that in Legends ZA. I hope. And since it's in Umbred Town, a city of water, Alan battled Seabold, so there's that. And speaking of water, now let's go to the Alola region. One would expect that with Ash being in Alola for a big while, second only to Sinnoh realistically speaking, episode-wise, that he had visited every nook and cranny of those islands, right? Sadly, that's not true. It's not the case at all. Ash never went to Heia Heia City, Coney Coney City, the Battle Tree in Pony Island, or the Lake of the Moon in Ula Ula. These two cities and these two landmarks were never explored by any detour, any pilgrimage, any island challenge, any classmate, which is kind of sad in retrospective. I feel like Heia Heia and Coney Coney would have been amazing episodes during, the whole Olivia arc, and we could have had, more lore for the Ultra Beasts in the Lake of the Moon, given how we saw the Altar of the Sun very early on. And the Battle Tree could have been amazing for, the kids to have tournament arcs before the Alola League. And these are not the only places that Ash never really visited, realistically speaking, because we never went to Poképelago or the Executor Island, but the anime decided to make Treasure Island as an analog to these two, so they basically combined these two places into one. And I guess they didn't do Poképelago because Moan was there, but then Sword and Shield happened and DLC informed the anime staff, put Moan somewhere else, wait. So there you have it, and the Treasure Island had Executor, so it was kinda like Executor Island. Now, another place in Melee Melee Island, it's called Kali Bay, We never went there, but you could infer that maybe the whole episode with Kyogre, where Lana's Brionne becomes a Primarina, it could have happened there. They have fishing spots, so it could be that interpretation. Now for other landmarks in Alola, we never went to the Holy Cemetery, but the whole Stoutland arc could loosely translate to the cemetery in some way, shape or form. And there was this one Ultra Guardians episode that had nothing to do with Ultra Beasts, it was just the boys meeting the hikers of Wela Volcano because they wanted to find some sparkling stones that the Graveler and the Golem were consuming. And I'm kinda mad that episode doesn't happen in, you know, Blush Mountain on Route 13, where there's another power plant that in the games that we don't visit, like the Kalos one. What's with power plants in desert that we don't get to visit, Game Freak? Jesus. Anyways, speaking of power plants, let's go end this off with the Galar region. Now, there are a lot of places in Galar that we never really visited, I know. But we do have some glimpses towards that. We have a glimpse of, you know, Postwick and Wedgehurst during the Darkest Day arc, even, you know, Turffield. We went to Motostoke in Horizons, so kinda there you have it, right? And we also went to Balloonly, Stow-on-Side, Hammerlock, Winden, like even if briefly, we do see these places as well as the Crown Tundra. And I already mentioned that we never went to the Isle of Armor. So the only two places that we never tackled Galar-wise, funny enough, even for its lesser screen time than the Decolor Archipelago, or even the Orange Islands, it was Hulbury and Circhester, the hometowns of Nessa and Gordy. Those are the two places that the anime never really did anything. We went to Slumbering Weald, we went to Glimwood Tangle, we went to the Wild Area, so we went to Spikemuth even, so these are the only, funny enough, these are the only two cities that the anime never really shown. At least the main anime. The other web series do tackle, you know, even if briefly. But yeah, Hulbury and Circhester are the only places we never see in the Ash era, as well as the other places that I've mentioned before. So there you have it, folks. These are the places that, you know, the Pokemon anime never really visited. Let me know in the comment section down below if there was any place that I missed. I didn't tackle Paldea because, you know, it's still ongoing, so there's that. Let me know what you thought about the video. Make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe. And I will see you another time, trainers. KuroBlitz out.